up, Taiwan? I'm Erika Liu with news from here in Taiwan and around the world. The military has deployed missile defense systems and scrambled the Air Force after dozens of Chinese military aircraft were spotted around the country. Jaime Ocon reports.
With Typhoon Kongwei now past, China is stepping up its military exercises once again. Taiwan's Defense Ministry reported 44 Chinese military aircraft operating around the country on Sunday. That's a larger number than usual, but what's drawing the most attention are the long-range exercises that China conducted. Taiwan's military says that 35 of the aircraft, including fighter jets, bombers, and other planes, flew from China between Taiwan and the Philippines into the Western Pacific. That entire flight lasted 11 hours. Taiwan's military says that these kinds of operations, these long-distance flights, are part of efforts for China to practice more offensive kinds of missions, trying to hit targets around Taiwan as Beijing continues to modernize its military. I spoke to one analyst earlier who says that Beijing is really trying to reach the east coast of Taiwan.
The value of being on the east side of Taiwan is geography. For one, if you're trying to deny outside intervention in a Taiwan contingency operation, being out there to stop them from getting to the east side of Taiwan is very important. But also, there are very valuable targets on the east side of Taiwan that are protected by Taiwan's very large mountains. So if you want to hit those targets easily, best way to do it is to just go around and hit them directly.
China claims Taiwan is part of its own territory and has not renounced the use of force to bring the country under its control. Taiwan's military says it deployed air and missile defense systems and scrambled its own fighter jets to monitor the situation. Observers originally thought that these exercises could be connected to the upcoming U.S. presidential elections as a show of force from Beijing. But Taiwan's military says that these exercises show the rapid rate that China's military is modernizing. Scott Huang and Jaime Ocon in Taipei for TaiwanPlus.
Taiwan's President Lai Ching-te is praising the country's speed in getting a new type of air defense frigate through to its second stage of construction. He spoke at a keel-laying ceremony for the domestically developed prototype, commending Taiwan's leading weapons maker, the Zhongshan Institute.
中科院研制的防空飞弹、反舰飞弹，并且整合先进的征收、火炮以及战斗管理系统，会以更高的机动性。 肩负起海上巡弋的责任。
The frigate is part of the country's effort to build new kinds of domestically made warships. This ship is one of two prototypes currently being built. The other is an anti-submarine ship. Both vessels should be delivered to the Navy by the end of 2026. The U.S. presidential candidates Kamala Harris and Donald Trump are making their last campaign appearances before Election Day on November 5th. Democratic candidate Kamala Harris gave speeches in Michigan, vowing to do her best to end the war in Gaza and be a leader for all Americans. She also made an appearance on the long-running comedy show Saturday Night Live. Meanwhile, Republican candidate Donald Trump swept through the battleground states of Pennsylvania, North Carolina, and Georgia, warning of voter fraud and attacking the media there. In the U.S. this year, a record number of naturalized citizens are eligible to vote. It's a notable milestone in an election cycle where the issue of immigration and the right to citizenship have been particularly contentious. Joyce Zheng reports from Boston.
After 20 years in the U.S., Taiwanese-American Du Hezhou is preparing to cast her first vote for the country's president. The molecular and cell biologist arrived on a student visa, and after years as a permanent resident with a green card, she only gained citizenship in 2021. Now, the new mom is excited to take part in deciding the fate of the place her family calls home.
It feels like, it's good to learn, and then also it's an honor to be able to participate as well. It's not a given, right? You can vote, and I think a lot of countries, and especially we know nowadays, maybe more and more, they don't have that kind of right.
Du has always been fascinated by democracy. Born in Taiwan, where self-rule is hard-won against territorial claims by authoritarian China, Du says being in the U.S. is a chance to learn from the leader of the free world. The United States is home to a fifth of the world's international migrants. Its melting pot identity tied to its diverse communities. Immigrants today account for over 14% of the country's population.
Of the roughly 244 million eligible voters this year, 1 in 10 are naturalized citizens, meaning they were born outside the U.S. That's more immigrants than ever before participating in the democratic process here, and the fastest growing group among them are the Asian Americans.
Despite the changing face of U.S. voters, immigration has been a fiercely debated issue in this election. Amid a surge of illegal crossings at the country's southern border with Mexico, both Democratic candidate Kamala Harris and Republican candidate Donald Trump have taken tough stands against illegal migrants, the former president going as far as to vow mass deportation. As Trump's camp ups anti-immigrant rhetoric, Harris, the daughter of immigrants herself, has reminded voters that part of the American spirit is the earned path to citizenship.
We must acknowledge we are a nation of immigrants.
For Taiwanese neuroscientist Anya Wang, coming to the U.S. from Taiwan 3 years ago was a chance to advance her career.
Scientific field-wise, America is still one of the biggest ones, and a lot of companies or labs, well, companies and the government is funding the labs, and so they just have more funding.
Now married and thinking about where to raise her future children, Wang hopes to become a citizen and stay in the U.S., which may prove difficult should Trump regain the presidency and continue his previous policies seeking to limit the path to citizenship. But lawyers who help immigrants like Wang say confronting the flawed system is necessary for U.S. prosperity.
A case that might have taken 4 or 5 hours before it may take 15 hours now because you have to constantly go down every little rabbit hole they're going to go with you. We have gone through periods in our history where we've experienced a kind of social schizophrenia and tried to cut off the flow of the immigrants, but inevitably the door is always opened back up. Because we need those people to invigorate our economy.
With Harris and Trump running one of the tightest races in history for the White House, Wang worries that anti-immigrant policies and sentiment may grow should Trump win. But those fears, she says, aren't enough to make her want to give up.
I'm not just gonna okay, things are bad, bye, I'm just gonna leave. You should stay because you choose here and you were using a resource you were given here.
For both Wang and Du, becoming American reflects their confidence in democracy, a system they believe is worth fighting for, knowing that the freedom to engage in public debate and cast ballots without fear are not rights to be taken for granted. Luffy Lee and Joyce Sun in Boston for TaiwanPlus.
We'll have more on the ground coverage of the U.S. election this week. Tune in daily for those reports. Moldova has re-elected pro-EU candidate Maia Sandu after a tight presidential runoff fraught with accusations of Russian meddling. Sandu's rival, Alexander Stoyanoglu, had promised closer ties with Moscow. She called her win with roughly 55% of the vote a lesson in democracy. Moldova is a former Soviet republic that borders Ukraine. It has its own breakaway region that hosts Russian troops, one of the big obstacles to its goal of joining the EU. A series of volcanic eruptions has killed at least 10 people in eastern Indonesia. The overnight eruptions of Mount Luatobi Laki-Laki wrecked houses, spewed ash, and set fire to areas of the island of Flores. Officials have had to evacuate several villages as the twin volcano violently came to life. Back here in Taiwan, Diana, a major Japanese women's professional wrestling promotion, has performed in the country for the first time. And fans from around the country traveled to a remote venue for a chance to see some legends of the sport. Our reporter Sandy Chi was among them. Please note, these are professional actors. Don't try to imitate them.
In an industrial space in northern Taiwan, pro wrestling legends make history. They half fight, half perform with passion and emotion, bringing the spectacle to a climax with a massive double drop kick. This is the first time World Women Pro Wrestling Diana, a famous Japanese promotion, has performed in Taiwan. Over the weekend, some of its youngest stars and mythic senior talent climbed into the ring. Among them was 63-year-old Jaguar Yokota, widely celebrated as one of the greatest female wrestlers of all time. In the early 1980s, she was considered among the best in the world, regardless of gender. Her debut in Taiwan marks a historic moment for the local scene. Although the audience, mostly men and boys, was starstruck, Jaguar found them easily relatable.
台湾はとてもやっぱ顔が東南アジア人だから同じなのですごく馴染みやすいわかるかな馴染みやすい同じ顔だから日本人と台湾の人一緒なのでとても馴染みやすいし
Having these Japanese professional wrestlers perform in Taiwan marks a significant milestone for the sport in the country, which has a small but committed following.
やっぱり台湾は団体が多分2団体しかないっていうのを聞いてて、日本にはやっぱり結構何十個も団体がたくさん男子も女子もあって、そうですねやっぱり台湾のお客さんはあんまりプロレスとか馴染みが少ないとは思うので、すごいやっぱ盛り上げればすごい乗ってきてくれるし。
In contrast to Taiwan, professional wrestling enjoys widespread popularity in the US and Japan, where it has its own distinctive traditions and styles. Promotions in the US focus on grand story arcs that unfold over years and often feature big entrances with pyrotechnics and dramatic stunts. But Japanese wrestling promotions like Diana usually emphasize a more respectful atmosphere between athletes and audiences, focus on technical skills, and often feature elements of slapstick comedy. Nonetheless, both styles have a strong emphasis on storytelling. And more often than not, it's these evolving plots that keep the hardcore fans or the marks coming back.
It's just the characters, the storytelling, the bumps and the hits inside the ring. It's beautiful. It's an art that you just need to pay attention to understand. That is what pro wrestling is to me. It's an art form for those who love storytelling, combat sports, and, well, everything that is about sports.
Though the event is held outside the capital in an alley in Taoyuan, it has attracted many of its loyal fans. And for them to see these bigger-than-life characters up close is a rare opportunity and definitely worth the trip. Many in the audience have been wrestling superfans for years.
我今天看完一整盒，就是蛮精彩的比赛，相当又看到两位传奇人物来到台湾，井上金子跟美洲虎横田选手，他们都是从我小学、国中时期就已经看过了他们的比赛，电视上看过的。
它的艺术性蛮有趣的啦，就是它其实有点像电影或戏剧这样，它有一种虚实，因为其实虽然说看起来它是一些通过表演在感受，但其实它有东西都是很真实的情感跟能量的那种交流啦。
Though the event only lasted for a few hours, it has certainly left a lasting impact on its fans. The electrifying atmosphere and skills on display resonated with the audience. For the people here, having a chance to see legends from wrestling's past while making history in Taiwan is a sure sign that the sport's future in the country is bright. Ryan Wu, Alex Chen, Bryn Thomas, and Sandy Chi for TaiwanPlus.
Thank you for watching What's Up Taiwan. You can visit the TaiwanPlus website or follow our social media for more stories from Taiwan and around the world. Finally, check out these highlights from the renowned Havana International Ballet Festival that recently took place in Cuba. I'm Erika Liu. Take care and see you next time.